Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim, and thank you all so much for all the love and support. Hope you all are doing great. So there is this gathering that happened, and it happened that Charlie Kirk was there, and a student in Alabama University was telling then how she has been haunted in Alabama University, and Charlie Kirk did not even let the young lady speak because United States or America is a melting point port. And America, in America, that is the least racist country ever. And the young lady was like, you all do not know what I am experiencing. I am the one going through this, but you are trying to shut me up like I don't know what I am saying. And Charlie Kirk went around and said, there is no boogeyman in Alabama or in your school that is hunting you down and the rest of it. Now, let me tell you something. People are so used to, especially colored people, are so used to making a black person's experience look invalid or look stupid. Why? Because they are not the one going through it. They are not the one experiencing it. For that reason, how are you going to experience something that nobody had? You are experiencing it. Are you the only one experiencing it? And another boy actually came out to say, why is it that colored people find it very hard to acknowledge what is going on in their community, especially when it happens to people that look like me? Now, let me tell you something. This man is a gaslighter and he knows how racist he is. But you know what? Let's get into
White people are not being haunted.
You
White
think you're
people.
being hunted?
Let me tell. Okay, y'all can laugh, but until you have walked as a black person on this campus, y'all truly don't understand.
You're not being hunted at the University of Alabama, and there is no boogeyman that's trying to get you.
It's not. You're making it seem.
You live in the least racist country in the history of the world.
You're in Alabama. You are literally in the place where it's not okay.
You mean the place that has given you more talking time than any other person here, and where they sit respectfully.
You're supposed to shut me down and be like, go sit down? I mean, of
Yes,
course I'm going to talk to you.
that
Of
would
course
have
you're gonna respond to
happened
me.
100 years ago. You're right. 100 years ago, you might not have been allowed to come into this room,
So
which would have been
bow to you because that's
which would have been evil. No, instead, we are here, we're creating a movement to say we never want to go back to the segregation that once existed in this country that is now being pushed by people in corporate America, in academia, and other places. We want to strive for a country that cares about character and the soul and the spirit of the individual, not on tribes, not on the melanin content in people's skin. And I will say this as compassionately as I can, is that you are not being hunted as a black person in America. There's not a single statistic that affirms that. There's not a single data point. Instead, the opposite is true. We are the least racist, most accepting, multiracial country in the history of the planet, and I pray one day you'll be thankful to live in that country.
Haunted.
You think
White
you're
people.
being hunted?
Let me tell. Okay, y'all can laugh, but until you have walked as a black person on this campus, y'all truly don't understand.
You're not being hunted at the University of Alabama, and there is no boogeyman that's trying to get you.
It's not. You're making.
He was being so tone deaf about her experience as a black person at the University of Alabama that he said that Alabama is the least racist state. Or he said supposedly that America is the least racist country. My thing is, do you not know the history of Alabama? Because if you don't, let me educate you real quick. This is Rosa Parks. She was on the bus, sitting down, minding her own damn business. Guess where this is at? You got it right, Alabama. Cool. They told her to get up and to go sit in the back of the bus. And she said, no, I'm not getting up to go sit in the back of the bus. I pay for my fare and have everybody to sit wherever I need to sit at. And they didn't want her to sit in front of the bus. So guess what they did? They got her arrested and threw her off the bus. And this is how the Alabama bus boycott began, which was a bunch of black and brown people were not taking the bus, and they refused to give their money to the government or to the transportation system that was going to discriminate them and constantly harass them and abuse them about sitting down at a seat. This is Emmett Till. He was lynched and burned in Mississippi, Alabama, because a white woman decided to lie on him, stating that he raped her. And until this day, that white woman, first of all, she was able to walk freely on this earth until the day that she died, which was last year. And this man's family had to suffer for years. So the next time you want to be foolish or ignorant about a black person speaking about their experience at a university where it has been known, not even the university itself, but the state has been known for its racist behavior and racist act towards black people, do not dismiss their feelings and their emotions, because they have every right to feel like that. I said what I said.
Do you understand that as a white man, you do not have to apologize for being white? You just have to acknowledge the racism that happens around you. That is all.
What racism happens around me?
Let's say that a racist police officer shoots me, right, and kills me, right? For you to be a white man and you see that and don't say anything about it, I believe that my community will be upset about that. Now, all you have to do as a white man, you don't have to get on the internet or on Twitter and say, I'm sorry for being white, but you should at least acknowledge the racism that happens around you.
Okay, well, yeah, if an individual act of racism happens...
That is just taking accountability for what happens around you.
Hold on a second. First of all, I don't have to be accountability for a whole race, do I? Why do I have to be accountable for the white race?
For yourself.
Right, so if I'm racist, I'll take responsibility for that.
You probably are not racist, but...
Thank you. So then why do I have to comment on somebody else's racism?
But what you should do is take accountability for the racism around you. Not pretend that it doesn't happen around you.
How can I take responsibility for somebody else's actions?
What you should do is just take accountability and say, hey, yes, that was racist, instead of saying, no, that officer wasn't racist.
Well, hold on. You got to show me an instance and an example, but we're talking about such a micro problem that doesn't exist. Do you know that a black person is 18.5 times more likely to shoot and kill a police officer than a police officer is to go and shoot an unarmed black man?
But is that the question that I asked you?
No, you asked a hypothetical about if I'm going to take accountability for a racist police officer. But do you understand, if I inverted it on you, would you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in America?
That was funny.
No, would you? Why don't you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in New York?
I wouldn't take accountability for it, but what I would say is, yes, there are a lot of black people in my community who do dumb things to other black people and to other white people. What I would not do is just pretend that it doesn't happen, so that, like I said, you as a white man has to do the same thing.
I acknowledge it happens. I also acknowledge it's rarer than lightning striking you when you're outside.
That's it.
But let me ask you, who is Tony Timpa?
That's all I wanted you to do. That's all I wanted you to do. Thank you.
I acknowledge it's rare, and I'm not going to have to take responsibility for an entire race at all. It's wrong and it's terrible. I wish we could have continued the conversation.
And there's sundown towns.
But you were mentioning there's one actually here in Alabama. We're in Alabama.
It's called Coleman, Alabama.
Coleman, Alabama.
Cullman.
Okay.
Alabama.
And then tell me about your story just now.
Okay. I was in Coleman. I was working with a real estate company where we would go out. People would call in off of postcard ads to buy their houses. So it was one particular house that was located in Coleman, and I was training with an office in Huntsville, and so I noticed strange glances every time they mentioned we were going to Coleman, and so I stayed quiet. I've heard of Coleman, but I didn't want to jump the gun. I wanted to see what they knew. I wanted to just pay attention. So we're riding, and as we come into town, I see a store, and it had a guy's face painted on the side of it. He had a beard, and so, I mean, to me, he looked like a person of color. I said, oh, this is a forward-thinking town. Look at that. They have, I'm thinking, okay, they done put somebody up. The driver looks at the passenger, because the two guys that I was riding with were in the front, I'm in the back. They look at each other, and he said, no, it's actually very much the opposite. He tells me out of his mouth, this is probably the most racist town in Alabama. It is a sundown town. I said, now you tell me after y'all bring me here. They're like, oh, you'll be fine, man. You'll be fine. You know, two country boys, so they're gonna be fine.
Right.
Well, yeah, you're good. I said, do I need to stay in the car when we get here? Oh no, man. I was like, okay. We pull up. We hop out. I'm hopping out the car. Everybody's getting out, closing the doors. I'm walking around. White lady comes out of the house, older, a little older. She looks at everybody. She sees me and yells out, "Oh, y'all brought a black fella." Wow.
And she was bold.
Bold. Out loud, yelled it. Because we were parallel parked in the street. So I'm in the road, getting out, walking around, and she yelled it.
So how did that rest of the interaction go?
I stayed out of the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I let them two take the lead. She kept trying to like grab me, like it was weird. And then one time she acted like she was gonna fall, and I held my arm out, in the house to help her. Like, oh, don't fall. She said, "Watch out, I'm dangerous." I was like, I gotta get out.
Yeah, that's not gonna make me feel good.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I didn't even know where'd that come from.
Right.
For the act of benevolence.
I would love if you left a review for Coleman, Alabama.
I would love to leave a review
Because
I want to warn people who have never heard of it.
Yeah.
Because there's businesses there. There's warehouses. So if you're a truck driver, you might be like, oh, Coleman, okay. But you need to know, don't spend the night there.
Dang.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
This is 2023.
It's 2023.
And there's sundown time.
I really don't know why he's so surprised. But anyways, this young man went to Coleman, Alabama, I believe. I'm not even quite sure. He had a horrible experience with extreme and overt racism, only to realize that it was a sundown town, where he was essentially threatened with violence. Now, the silver lining in this situation is that I do love a good overt racism versus the nice covert racism, which is really dangerous. However, bottom line is that sundown towns should not exist. If you're going to pride yourself on being an American, that includes the understanding that America is a melting pot of all different cultures, all different colors, all different flavors. What are you doing propping up a sundown town? Don't you have a cousin to go marry?
Now, before we continue our conversation on Jim Crow, I wanted to take a minute and talk about Anna, Illinois, and sundown towns. Yes. Before we get started, let's talk definitions. Okay, we've only got one, and that's for sundown towns. Okay. Now, we've talked about sundown towns quite a few times. Sundown towns bar black people from town after dark. Any black person found in the town after dark, they were usually met with harassment and violence, usually a lynching. Most towns usually had a sign at the city limits that said something like, "Inward, don't let the sun go down on you in insert name of city." Okay. Now, Anna had a sign like this on Highway 127 as recently as the 1970s because Anna, Illinois was a sundown town. Yes. Anna, Illinois was named after the daughter of the founder of the town. And in about 1907, 1909, they gained an acronym. And that acronym was Ain't No Inward Allowed. And this came after the lynching of Will James in neighboring city Cairo, Illinois. We'll get there. But first, Anna, like most towns in Illinois during this time, they were horribly racist. Yeah. Anna's earliest residents were from Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia, the South, who also happened to be slave-holding states. Yes. In 1865, a black man walking toward Anna along railroad tracks outside of town was shot and killed by a Northerner sympathetic to the Confederacy. In 1874, during Reconstruction, the KKK came in, demanded that Anna residents fire all of the black people and send them out of the county or suffer the consequences. But the incident that gave Anna their acronym actually happened in neighboring city Cairo, Illinois. In November 1909, a 23-year-old white woman named Anna was found unalived in an alley in Cairo. The police were led to and arrested a black man named William James. Less than 72 hours after his arrest, without a trial, white residents took the law into their own hands. Surprise, surprise. A white mob took James to a pair of steel arches that spanned the intersection, and in front of 10,000 spectators, they tried to lynch him. However, the rope broke. So instead, they shot him repeatedly. They then dragged him through the streets and set his body on fire. They later cut off his head and stuck it on a hitching post. Hinman, in his interview, said any black people who worked or lived in Anna were driven out of town after the Anna Pe0ple incident in 1909. Because once the white mob was done with William James, they turned their attention to the town and drove out Anna's 40 or so black families following the lynching. They only allowed one black family to stay. And it's at this point that Anna, Illinois, became a sundown town.
So this is all I got from this video. Do you know why I added this woman's video? Empress. I added it because a lot of people are going to say that I never knew that there is something like Sundown Town. And I want everybody to know that Sundown Town does not only exist in Alabama, it exists in almost all the states, or quite very few that you can exempt, right? So for Charlie Kirk to be gaslighting himself is just really stupid. He knew what the young lady was saying. The young lady was actually right on point. She knew what she was saying. They are hunting people, and that is not a new thing. It did not start happening today. They are aware of it. But what are they going to do? They keep lying. Like the young black man said, have you people ever acknowledged anything racism that happens around you? Of course not, because they do not like to take responsibility. That is just something I know them. They do not like, not even for a minute, like to take anything responsibility. That is it. So moving forward, the girl know what she is saying, but how dare you say it? How dare you, as somebody that look like me, come out and say such a thing, that you are being haunted? Like he said, you heard what he said. And is there any boogeyman here that is hunting somebody? Of course not. There is nobody hunting somebody in Alabama. Why? Because United States is a melting pot. That melting pot has melted long ago. For those that do not understand or do not know, it melted long ago. It is no longer melting, right? So saying USA or America is the least right to the season, he knows that he is also lying. But kudos to him, because all he does is come out online and gaslight. And for the people out there clapping for him, you all are part of the problem. The problem is that some of them do not even want to see or hear you speak up. or what is going on around you. Why? Because they feel, how dare you speak up? You are not supposed to speak up about what is going on around you. Are not supposed, and then making the girls' opinion or experience invalid. You know something that I detest from people? People that take out of people's experience, or people that do not want people to share their experiences because to them it is not valid, because they actually have a belief. But I don't care the belief you have or something. People should be able to share their opinion, share their experiences. And like I love, so I am going to say a very big shout out to that young lady. She actually stood up for herself. And that is something, with everything happening around her, she was able to speak up, to say her experience and what she is saying. She knows what is experience. They do not experience it. It is not their experience. So for that reason, it was okay for them to laugh, you know? And what was he expecting? Charlie Kirk wanted her to bow down and say, yeah, there is nothing like that happening. You know, making people feel like they are crazy. You know, when people make you feel like crazy, like what you are saying is you are not making sense. She knows what she is saying. So if there is anything like Sundown Town, sisters, brothers, I want you to know that Sundown Town still exists to this very moment. Check out online Rashidi. What happened to Rashidi? And so many of them. It's not only Rashidi. I can remember how many stories that I have covered here, countless stories that I have covered here, that I have brought here. Mothers crying. Why? Because their son or their daughters probably went out with their colored kids for excursion, or for, like, get together, or for a sleepover, and they never returned. And they ended up being seen in the bush with everything severed, like probably leg somewhere, the other place, eyes somewhere, hand somewhere. So what happened? And then where was it found? In a sundown town. Footwears found mile away. Probably he was trying to escape. There has been so many countless stories that I have brought here. And it happened to people that look like me. And somebody's out there gaslighting and manipulating himself. I really feel very bad for this young lady, because people do not understand what people go through, and then making their experiences invalid. That really sucks. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.